Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Manning with lifeafterdeath.com. Lifeafterdeath.com is a community of people who are fascinated by the topic of life after death, near-death experience, reincarnation, and the spiritual issues that relate to that interest. Now, we try to keep an open conversation. We invite guests to come and talk with us in areas of expertise. And my guest tonight is Linda Backman. Now, Linda is a licensed psychotherapist and a regression therapist. Now, she's an author of 3 books, including Bringing Your Soul to Light, Healing Through Past Lives and Time Between. And she and her husband founded the Raven Heart Center in Boulder, Colorado. And we're going to learn all about that in our conversation. But welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you again. Now, I am totally fascinated by what you do. I understand what a licensed psychologist does. What does a regression therapist do?
Well, first of all, a regression therapist does not have to be a licensed psychologist. I always want to make sure listeners know that. But so what a regression therapist does essentially is understand how to guide a client into relaxation and how to guide the client into the discovery of an important past life, and to work at the soul level, to work with intuition and the soul level of the client.
So is this hypnosis? Is that what you're doing basically? Or?
Yeah, yes. I mean, technically speaking, it is hypnosis. Some people are they're nervous about that kind of a term. Hypnosis is purely relaxation. It's exactly what we do when we guide ourselves into relaxation. It's all about, without going into a lot of in-depth explanation, every day of our life, we relax. And as we relax, long before we go to sleep, technically the cycles per second of our brain slow down. And as that measured frequency of our brain slows, we become more intuitively open. That's really what hypnosis is all about.
Okay. So why would a person come to you to do a regression session? What would they hope to achieve through working with you?
Okay, very good. Small question, big answer, but I'll try to make it not a huge, long answer.
Okay.
So people come for a variety of reasons. Some people are
Oh, I think I've lost you there. We're frozen. I'll keep talking for a minute in case you come back.
Okay, I am here.
You're back.
Okay.
That was very graceful. How we just kind of paused, but we had a low internet connection. But you said that people would come to you for several different reasons, and then it's cut off. So start there.
Okay. People would come for a whole variety of possible reasons.
Okay.
One reason would be people are dealing with wondering what comes after this human life. Right. So some people want to comprehend, is there really something more than just this life, this body? Yeah. That would be one reason. Other people might come for grief issues. They, again, want to know, well, since my loved one has passed, where is my loved one? What happens to the soul? And that sort of thing. And then the bigger picture of understanding past lives, Margaret, would be, who have I been before? Is that affecting my life today? Is it affecting my life in a skill or an interest? But is it also affecting my life in a relationship that just doesn't work very well? A physical issue, an emotional issue, those kinds of things.
It's interesting you mentioned that because we've recently been talking on 60andMe about another group I work with about childhood trauma and about how childhood trauma can actually have a big effect on your present life and you don't even realize it. So I suppose you're taking it even to that next level way back before childhood, before any of those traumas.
And it's really one and the same in the sense that for people that are trying to discover a current life childhood trauma, that can affect us, as you say, just as a past life trauma can affect us. And I'll just add that there are times when a past life trauma, let me put it this way, that there are times when a current life trauma is a continuation of a past life issue.
Yes. I was actually going to ask you about that as we got further into it, but describe to us, I'm really fascinated because I've never done this before myself. What happens in a hypnotherapy session where a client is asking to go back and look at any one of those levels of understanding about their life?
Well, let me say a couple of things. One, when the client comes in for a past life regression, and we'll just make it simple right now, and then later I'll talk about the longer regression, but when a client comes to discover a past life, what I always say to the client, my sort of caveat is, I don't determine what past life the client goes to. So let's just say the client says, I've just met someone new and I'm in a romantic relationship and I really like this person, but there's something off. There's something I don't get. They want to know perhaps if it's tied to a past life. I always say to the client, and this is what I completely believe, I'll say no is true. I don't choose the past life. The client intends to go to a particular past life, but it's the client's spiritual guides and the client's soul level or higher self level that determine what past life will be most useful for the client to discover in that particular soul regression session.
Wow, you've actually just opened like a Pandora's box of questions there, but I'll try to stay focused on this one because it's really fascinating. I try to remember the things that popped into my brain as you were answering that. But so someone comes in, you don't determine where they're going to go. You sit with them, you get them into a hypnotic calm and state, and you start asking questions. How do you get them to connect with that past life? What do you say to them? What do you do?
Okay. So again, these are great questions, and I'll try to make my answer simple. So the client comes. First, we do an interview. I want to know my client because I'm going to help the client understand why their spiritual guides chose the past life that does come forward. So I do a moderately brief interview. Then the client gets comfortable, reclining or laying down. I guide them with breathing, guided imagery, and metaphor. That is what you would call hypnotic work.
Right.
Client, I want to be sure that listeners know the client does not become completely a zombie or unaware. The client is very conscious. They're simply more relaxed. And what happened is the right hemisphere of their brain becomes more open intuitively.
Okay.
And through metaphor, I guide them metaphorically to step into a scene that begins to unfold. It's the beginning scene of the past life. I don't tell them anything about the scene. They tell me about the scene.
So they could pop into this past life at the beginning of it or the middle of it or as they died in that life?
Yes, that's a beautiful question. On average, the client goes into the life, whatever life obviously is going to come forward, somewhere in their 20s or 30s. Mm-hmm. But it could be anywhere, but more typically young adult years.
Okay. But they may have died in their young adult years too. So that's interesting.
You are totally correct.
Wow.
And so if they died in their young adult years, we may go in earlier. It's one of the reasons I love this work is I don't control or I can't decide what's going to come forward. Yeah. That's why training is important to know how to do this. But the client, yes, might be 10 years old. They might be on their deathbed when we first begin.
Okay, so now stay with this particular form of the hypnotherapy that you do, or the soul regression that you do, and bring them out and tell me what people say when they come out after having had that experience, and then we'll go back to the deep.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Well, at first, I would say, to use an overused phrase, it's a little bit like a deer in the headlights. It's a little bit like, where did I get all that? How did that all come forward? But they fairly quickly, with me asking them open-ended sort of discussion questions. So how do you feel about that? And how might you use that in your current life? So initially, a client who's never had a regression is going to be somewhat surprised at, oh my goodness, where did I get all that content?
Do you record it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would make sense because then you could go back and listen to it again, what they're saying. Do they actually describe it like a dream? Like they describe it like colors, and is it like sort of otherworldly, or is it very like I'm there is it very like material? I can't describe it really, but
if it is a life, and I know we have many questions we're going to be working on in our conversations, Margaret, but if it's a life on Earth, they're going to go into a scene. They might say, I'm a man, I have a dark beard, I have on boots, they're scuffed on the toe of the left boot, and they're, one of my pair of jeans, these jeans are tattered. It's
so very specific.
Very specific. Yeah.
Do they ever have people beside them, like their children or their wife, or like you were saying earlier about how often a relationship is questionable, and so someone wants to go in and find that person was in their past life in some way. Do you find that, or is it more of a solitary experience usually?
It totally works both ways. To give you just a quick example, so let's just say that it's a woman in the scene. Now keep in mind that it could be a male client discovering a life as a woman.
Right.
The woman might go into a big, opulent, aristocratic looking room where there's an event happening. And so the room would be filled with people. And it's rather common that they say, oh, and I noticed someone over there to the right.
Right.
That begins to tell us that's a key person in that lifetime.
Okay. All right. This is really, we could probably dive really, really deep in this, but I want to remind people that Linda actually has a website called the Raven Heart Center, that with an ER, center.com in Colorado. So if you want more information, deeper, go and visit her website, because I'm sure there's a lot there to help you. But let's go back in again, because you mentioned there was a different kind of soul regression that you do that takes you even back further. What happens there?
Yes. So if we take what I've already explained is a past life regression, something called a between lives soul regression is longer. And after we go through the past life and all the way to the final scene, we go all the way to the death scene, then the client literally experiences what happens when we die. It's why I have no doubt that there's an afterlife. The client experiences the soul energy that caused them in the past life to be alive. That soul energy it's like autopilot. It automatically steps out of the body. We follow that journey. I'm wanting my finger to go like this because we move to the point of connecting, if you will, at the soul level of the client. And then spiritual guides may show up. I can say more about that kind of session, but then we work at the soul level of the client's higher self.
Wow. Would that one be a separate, would it be a different client that comes to you, or does a client that's done the first one come back and say, I'd like to go a little bit deeper? Or do you think it's a different type of person that would be interested in those two?
Oh, yeah. I love your questions. They're great questions. I'll put it this way. I have some clients where I guide a past life regression, and that's all we do. I have a lot of clients who have a past life regression, and then subsequent to that have a between lives soul regression. And obviously some clients repeat one or both sessions at a later point in time. So it really varies a lot.
Wow. Okay. This is really almost more than my brain can take at the moment. But I wanted just to tease people with another interview that we're going to do together. I don't know if you noticed, Linda made a comment back there that kind of slipped in something that was so magical, which is this idea of, yes, if the regression took place on this planet, I think you said, or on this earth. And because I know your latest book, or one of your 3 books, is about interplanetary regression. And I want to talk to you about that in another interview.
I'm thrilled to talk about any and all of this. Obviously, I find this work fascinating and very deepening and useful for clients.
Well, I'm really happy that you did this. But I would like to ask you, as we close for this interview, how did you get started on this, Linda? What was it, a moment in your own life where you had an experience that, I've got to share this? Or how did it come to you?
Yes. So I'll just say, some of the clients I work with are people that come to me and they say, when I was a child, maybe I was 10, maybe I was 12, I knew I'd had other lives, or I knew I had a spiritual guide. And then I have other clients come who are like me, who reached a point in their adult life, and all of a sudden there was an opening, an experience. So that's what happened for me. I had a very close colleague pass about 26 years ago. I wasn't into any of this. I actually wasn't even sure I believed in reincarnation. He passed, and essentially what happened is he began talking to me from the other side, and he started showing me scenes of past lives we'd shared. At first, I thought that was very strange, and then I started learning more about it and knew I had to go deeper into this work.
Did you have a teacher? Did you have someone that you learned from?
Yes, I had more than one teacher and mentor, and one of my mentors is someone that many spiritual people have read his books, Dr. Michael Newton, who created the tool, the regression of between lives work, was once my mentor and then my colleague.
Wonderful. Wonderful life you've had and fascinating story. Please encourage everyone to go out to Linda's website and check it out. If you're in Colorado, you're going to be close to the real person. But thank you, Linda, for being here with us. And I'm looking forward to our continued conversations. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our Life After Death YouTube channel and visit our website at lifeafterdeath.com. We are a community of people who are fascinated by the topic of life after death and subjects like near-death experience, the afterlife, reincarnation, and spirituality. Together, we are exploring and discovering these topics together with curiosity and an open heart.